traders, to our post-week market review. So jumping straight into things here, we're going to go from where the market originally opened, which is this candlestick right here. As we spoke about in our midweek technical analysis, we established that price was creating higher highs and higher lows, indicated by these drawings that we have here. As you can see, since we last left off, price then pushed up and created its next higher high at around 3,395. Price then dropped down, creating its next higher low at 3,385 before price then had an enormous amount of bullish and buyers enter the market, pushing price up throughout that London and New York session on the Thursday. As volume dropped down and we entered closer and closer to that Asian session, you can see that price ended up pulling itself back down, creating the next higher low at 3,405. Remember, in our midweek technical analysis, spoke about that level of 3,400 being the main pivotal point for gold, and if we saw price rise above this area, we will most likely see price continue on to go and test that previous all-time high of 3,500 or create a new all-time high. And as you can see, since that last lower high was created throughout the Friday, as we entered into the New York session throughout Friday, we saw an enormous amount of bullish pressure and buyers entering the market, pushing price up, creating its next high at 3,450. This is now interesting because we have seen our next higher low created at 3,342. As you can see, in comparison to the structure and the candlestick, and the price action that we've seen in these higher highs and higher lows, you can see that the higher highs and higher lows are of some sort of distance. However, as you can see here, the next higher low that was created wasn't very far off from the higher high that was created. And what does this tell us? This tells us that the amount of buyers that are in the market and still placing those long orders, they are very apparent in comparison to the sellers entering the market. Of course, we are going to see some retracing moves next week. However, as we are 500 pips clear of that level of 3,400, the only probable move that we could expect to see is a new all-time high created for gold. So with that being said, we're going to have a look at what this could look like. So as you know as well, between these levels of around 3,350 and 3,500, which was the most recent all-time high for gold, we don't have any points of interest marked in. Now, why is that? It's because if I go back to our higher high, which is going to be here, as you can see in this area, so again, this is this new higher high, the 3,450 level. As you can see in this area here, so the gap in between it, if I go ahead and mark this in a different color, the gap in between it is that there's not much going on. If I go down to our minute 15 and have a closer look, what we're going to go and do now is we're going to see if there's any points of interest that we want to take into account when price does end up pushing above this level of 3,350. So I'd say there's one point of interest, maybe 2 points of interest. There's going to be a point of interest here. The reason I say that is because you can see that price found support at this level and then came back up to test it as a resistance before we saw that enormous push all the way down. And I'd also say that this level here is a minor level that we'd like to take into account. And we might as well mark in this minor level here before price drop back down and push all the way up to 3,500. So we've now established that we've got a few points of interest that we want to take into account, and we'll go ahead and go back to our minute 15 then, and we will delete this yellow box. That's the wrong box. Bear with me 1 second. Just trying to delete the yellow box. Okay, cool, perfect. So what we're going to be looking at is, so now we've established that we've got a few points of interest within this sort of gap that we had. We're going to expect that price is definitely going to push to 3,460 upon market open. What we most likely will see in and around this area is some consolidation, whether the consolidation looks like this, or whether we see consolidation like this, or whether we see a decent retracement back down to roughly the 3,400 level. That is something that we could see. So there is definitely an opportunity for the sellers to step in and then drive price down. However, with the current candlestick structure that we are seeing, with the current price action, and with the current strength of this bullish move, we are going to expect and most likely see price push to this level of 3,462. It's going to be the same scenario as always. If we do see the level of 3,462 surpassed, if price just completely breaks through it, we're then going to be looking at that next level, 3,480, and then that sort of final level up here at around 3,493, give or take. However, at any of these levels, we could see price test as a resistance. With price coming to this level, testing as resistance and dropping down. However, we are going to assume that price is going to continue with this higher high and higher low structure and continue its way slowly but surely to creating a new all-time high. So in conclusion, this week has been extremely bullish, with the start of the week being a little bit neater in terms of price action, but price has been overall bullish. As you can see, there is a lot of choppiness within the market. Again, I have spoken to a few of you inside the customer support about this. The market's always like this on the last week of August. The reason for that being is all the hedge fund managers, so the big players, if you will, aren't currently trading in the markets, and they're currently celebrating their lives. They're partying on their yachts and doing whatnot else. So that's the reason why the market isn't moving the same way as it normally does. Like, for example, if I compare this week in comparison to something like this, you can see that price action is somewhat normal. We're seeing sideways movement. We're seeing a lot of volatility and volume in the market. However, as you can see here, we have some liquidation grabs. We have some, it just looks a little bit more noisy. And I know this, when I zoom out, looks noisy, but if I zoom in for you, you'll see what I mean. Give me 1 second. You can see that price action looks the same. It looks normal. We're seeing highs created, then we're seeing prices of support tested. However, as you can see here, we're not necessarily seeing key points that we have marked in, respected and tested until sort of we've got to the end of the week here. And obviously on Friday now, an enormous bullish move as the week comes to a close. So very, very excited to see what takes place next week. So that's going to be our post-week market review. As always, I hope you have all enjoyed. Don't forget to keep hitting that like, comment and subscribe button. Remember, drop us a comment in below. Let us know if you're enjoying these videos. Again, let me know if you want me to speak a little bit more about certain things, a little bit less about certain things. If there's things you want to add, maybe a new video that you'd like to see, any questions that you have, anything of the sort, I'll be happy to read through them and respond if necessary. So once again, that's going to be our post-week market review. As always, I hope you've all enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.